Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And we're going to, as usual, have some great information today. And I always start by saying hello. And Mike, you're numero uno from Norland this morning. Jen, how are you? Nativity. And Sandra from Aurelia, Brahim from Portland, Oregon, Andrea, Niagara Falls, Rosa, Montreal, Rosalinda, Niagara Falls, Chantal from Ottawa, good morning, Anne from Moncton, New Brunswick, Lynn from Verner, Ontario, Janice, Brampton, Fran from Orangeville, good morning. Laurie, Peterborough. Deb from Timoth. Maria. Jeanette from our staff is on with us this morning. Mary, good morning. And Donna from Park Hill. Wendy from Markham. And we appreciate you. Nellie, how are you? Janet. Beamsville, how are you? Brian and Diane from LaSalle. Donna from Bell Valley. So we got two Donnas. Kevin, Oshawa. Jeanette, bonjour. And Suzanne, we love having you on. Nicole, bonjour. Alma, Sturgeon Falls. Sandy, Perry Sound. Catherine, Sherwood Park, Alberta. Francis, good morning. Evelyn, good morning. Okay. And Marilyn from Edmonton. Kathy. Deb, Nova Scotia. Linda, oh, those Lindas. Gerard, Pennsylvania. Darlene, how are you? Saskatchewan. Debbie, Nova Scotia. Lori Lee from Ventura, California. Mara, good morning. Yvonne. Okay, couple of more. Dave from Muskoka. And Sharon, Elmira, Tina, Wheatley. Yolande, bonjour. Wendy, London. Luella, West Tennessee. Suzanne, good morning. And Zian. And Jean, dear friends. And somebody I just missed. Brenda, Campbell River. Robin, Connecticut. And Vera, Newfoundland. And Rita, we love you guys so dearly. Brenda, good morning. Okay, so Jocelyn, how are you? Carol from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. And Sue, how are you? Lise, how are you? Guys, Carolyn, Edmonton, Bon Matin, Glenda, good morning. Now, yesterday we talked about a study that came out on erythritol. We talked about, is erythritol, somebody said this to me afterwards, and is it really a fake sugar? Well, look, sugar alcohols is not a real sugar, and it's not alcohol. So we brought that up yesterday. A new study saying, cardiovascular disease. Is it really artificial sugar as far as erythritol, maltitol, and xylitol, and all these sugars? Look, I think we came to a conclusion yesterday. Let's limit those type of sugars, okay? Let's limit them. They're very much found in keto foods because they're not calories in that sense, right? So that makes them popular with keto. You know me and keto foods. Look, here's the best keto foods in the world: eggs, meat, and cheese. Okay, it's nature, it's animal protein. And I double down on that all the time. Eat real foods. And the problem with keto foods, there's too much fakeness in there, in my opinion, okay? So they're popular, but I like pure nutrition, okay? Pure nutrition is where I come from. Now, today, though, I want to talk to you about another type of sugar, and it's called fructose, okay? Now, everybody thinks fructose is good, okay? It's good. I mean, if you had to pick a sugar, you would certainly think that fructose is the best. Well, that depends, okay? That depends on a couple of things, okay? And what I want to do is sort of bring out a couple of studies, new studies on fructose, okay? Now, fructose is metabolized almost identically to alcohol in your liver, okay? Fructose is metabolized almost identically in your liver. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. Any doctor will tell you, be careful with alcohol. I mean, any doctor worth any salt will tell you that, right? Like, be careful with it because alcohol can be very, very damaging to the liver. But guys, fructose is metabolized very, very similarly. And that's what separates fructose from sucrose, okay, or glucose. Now, they're both sugars, but fructose is metabolized differently, okay? So I want to just bring to you, okay, a couple of studies that are really interesting when it comes to, let me just get a quote of where these studies came from. Okay, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Dr. Richard Johnson. Now, I have a book, I should have put it out with me. I have a book right here by Dr. Richard Johnson, probably the guy that has studied fructose more than anybody else in medicine or in terms of research. And I really appreciate some of the books that he's written, and I've really read them, taken a lot of notes, okay? His name is Dr. Richard Johnson. And here's a few things that he says, okay? And this is important, okay? Recent studies, okay, I'm quoting Dr. Johnson here, looked at high fructose corn syrup, okay? And we'll talk about this in a second. As a culprit because it alters brain metabolism and causes degeneration of brain regions associated with Alzheimer's. Okay? So yesterday we looked at sugar alcohols, okay? And possibly, I read the studies, look, were they conclusive? Maybe, maybe not. All I'm saying is, it made the news, so I said I better pontificate on it to give you some perspective, and we came to some conclusions. I think I tried to convince you, you know what, be careful with those type of sugars. Don't overuse them. But today we're going to talk about fructose, and more specifically, the one that I hate is high fructose corn syrup, okay? And Here's a quote, okay, on research done by Dr. Johnson. Here's what he says. Fructose levels are high in brain with early Alzheimer's. Look, we all know what fructose does in the liver, okay? And we've talked about this in the past. You know the 6 days on the road and I'm gonna get home tonight. I'm not supposed to be singing, but that was a song that I used to like as a kid, okay? And it doesn't take long to damage your liver. And they've shown this. Changes in the liver, as soon as you start drinking high fructose corn syrup in soda, or whatever they add it to, when they do ultrasounds on the liver, they can tell within 6 days, less than a week, changes occur within the liver. Okay? Now, the good news is, let's put this out there, one of the biggest benefits of the reset is in 6 days, you can change the liver for the good because it empties out the fat in the liver. An epidemic beyond epidemics today is non-alcoholic fatty liver. And I've said it again and again and again. Listen, there was no such thing when I was in school. Do you know that? No such thing. There was no, you couldn't go read in the book, non-alcoholic fatty liver. All we knew about liver fat and cirrhosis was alcohol caused that. There was no fructose causing non-alcoholic fatty liver. At least not when I was in school. It's a new phenomenon, and even in the last 20 years, it's up 300%. And there's a reason for it. Because fructose is different. Fructose, even if you go look at a beer, okay? What? Let's look at a beer, okay? My sister, had me laughing. This is years ago because she said, they're buying condos in Timmins. There were so many bears. And where I live in Sudbury, in the spring, boy, the bears come out. And you better hammer down your garbage and stuff like that because they come right out of the woodwork, the woods, and they come into town. Right? And my sister had me laughing. She said, "We got so many bears in Timmins. They're buying condos." Okay, but let's get back to what bears do. Okay, bears, when they're getting ready for hibernation, they store an enormous amount of fat. Bears get really fat. And you know what bears eat to get fat? Not your garbage. Okay? They'd love to eat that. But what they do is they eat berries, fructose. And they fatten up. I don't know. Well, it must be true. I read it. Bears eat up about 30,000 berries a day to gain fat. You see, so fructose is a fat storing sugar. Okay? Fructose is a fat storing sugar. You don't use fructose for energy. That's really important, guys. You don't use fructose for energy. You use fructose to store. Unlike glucose. Glucose you can use for energy. Now, if you don't, glucose will be stored as fat. But nothing like fructose. Do you understand the difference? Fructose, think about it. Fructose, storing. Glucose, energy. You need to burn it. Fructose you won't burn as energy. Fructose will be stored as fat. Glucose gets there too, okay? Glucose gets there too. So guys, here's why I'm bringing it up, okay? And way before Dr. Johnson brings it up. I admire that. I've been screaming blue murder since 1980. Maybe before. They changed the sugar. The food industry changed sugars. Okay? They went from glucose to fructose, and they made it in a lab, and it's called high fructose corn syrup. Why is that so bad, Doc? It's fructose. It sounds healthy. I remember, I'm talking 20 years ago, more. I had written an article, and I got blowback from the top doggy in the States about high fructose corn syrup, she said, was good for you. It's high in fructose. I had written an article saying that was the Antichrist of sugars. A horrendous sugar. Okay? Now, why am I bringing this up? Because last 2 days we're talking about sugars. And I want you guys to understand this. And the best way to understand it is to understand how your body operates. So, when you consume high fructose corn syrup, and by the way, here's what the food industry was able to get past the FDA, Health Canada, you name the body, the government agencies. They allowed them to hide the name, high fructose corn syrup. They don't even have to mention it. You drink a soda, they don't have to put they got high fructose corn syrup in there. They tell you they got sugar, but they don't tell you that it's the worst sugar in the universe. And Dr. Johnson in his research is saying, your brain, my brain, if there's fructose up there, it's the worst thing. Because Alzheimer's, when they look at early Alzheimer's, the fructose levels are the highest in the brain. So folks, what am I saying? It doesn't end in your liver, okay? And liver, I'm a big guy on liver. I'm a very, very big guy on liver health. You know? What happens in the liver don't stay in the liver. It's not Las Vegas. You know I've said that to you. What happens in the liver it starts the metabolic syndrome. It starts people on that broad road, 93% of the population, imagine, in North America, are unwell. They don't even know it, most of them. And one of the biggest culprits is this fructose. It's in a liquid form, high fructose corn syrup. The worst thing you can do, look, you want to have an orange? Eat an orange. Don't drink it. Don't drink apple juice. Ever. Don't give it to your kids, grandchildren, nothing. Don't do that. Why? Because it's fructose. It's not going to do one thing for their energy, and it's going to be stored. Because fructose is a storing sugar. Isn't that important? You can eat fruit. I'm not against eating fruit. I'm not. Okay? I'm against living on it. Don't live on fruit. But you can eat it. I love fruit. But I limit myself. And I never drink it. Now you can put a few berries, okay, in Dr. Martin's perfect smoothie. Okay? You can do that. Put a few berries. That's all right. But don't live on fructose, and especially high fructose corn syrup. Okay, now, let me give you some other things that Dr. Johnson brought out, okay, in his research on fructose. Really interesting. Okay? Survival response for bears. Not for you. Okay, now. Fructose, okay, actually causes more hunger and thirst than glucose. It doesn't satisfy as much. And if what Dr. Johnson said, it affects leptin. It makes you leptin resistant. You know what leptin is? Leptin is a hormone that tells you you're full. Okay? Leptin is a hormone that tells you you're full. Stop eating. But what happens? Boy, the food industry, give them credit, because what did they do? They made people fat and they made people hungry by switching sugars. They made people fat and they made people hungry. And people don't even realize it. Doctors don't take anything in nutrition. Well, let me give you a quote. I wrote it here. Let me give you a quote. This came from an article I was reading. Listen to this quote from Pierre Ducart, whoever he is. I just like the quote. For the first 50 years of your life, the food industry is trying to make you fat. Then the second 50 years of your life, the pharmaceutical industry is treating you for everything. I like that. The first 50 years, the food industry, brought to you by the people that used to run the tobacco industry. They want to hook you. They discovered a sugar in Milan named high fructose corn syrup. It's cheap, very cheap. It is addictive, and they knew it. It takes the same route in your brain as cocaine does. It'll hook you. And you know what I always say? Let's go to the mall together and we'll observe use our eyeballs to observe people today, including children, what do you see? Everybody is bigger. You know, it's incredible. And fructose, high fructose corn syrup, is the main culprit. Now let me get back to what else he said. Okay? Fructose for storing, glucose for energy. Fructose, he says, okay, depletes ATP and mitochondrial damage in the brain. Fructose, high fructose corn syrup, it depletes ATP. You know what ATP is? Energy. ATP is fuel coming out of your mitochondria. You remember in high school, mitochondria in your cells? Your battery packs? Well, you got an enormous amount of mitochondria in your brain. Because your brain needs energy big time. It uses 25% of your energy, your total energy. 25% is found in 2% of your body weight, your brain. And what Dr. Johnson and others, but Dr. Johnson is saying, look, you know what that fructose does? It depletes the ATP. It's mitochondrial dysfunction in the brain, and he says that is catastrophic for Alzheimer's. It's catastrophic. Okay? Now, he also says, okay, fructose increases in the hypothalamus, okay? In the hypothalamus. So this is for hormones. Hypothalamus is hormones. Hippocampus is memory. Okay? And he says, fructose, even in the hypothalamus, stores water by reducing, what fructose does is it makes your brain secrete a hormone to make you hold on to fluids. Another storing thing. You're holding on to fluid. That's not good. It increases insulin resistance. It increases blood pressure. It increases inflammation, all in his research. Regional changes in the brain and decrease cognitive function. Wow. You know what they call, in 2005, they discovered that Alzheimer's was really type 3 diabetes. And that sort of got shelved because it wasn't following the narrative of the pharmaceutical companies that were trying to find medications for Alzheimer's. So they didn't like the idea of type 3 diabetes. And it sort of got hidden. I often shock people when I do seminars or whatever, and I say, well, your brain, Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes. Your brain becomes diabetic before the rest of you becomes diabetic. Okay? No, I noticed someone there, I didn't even see who it was, said, well, I have a friend that's skinny as a rake and not healthy. Hey, you can be skinny as a rake. It depends where that fat is being stored. You can have fatty liver and be skinny. Do you know that? You just don't see it. Some people have an enormous capacity to store fat. Some people don't have that capacity to store fat. They're still storing it in the wrong places around their organs. You just can't see it. You can't see it. Anyway, interesting stuff, man. So let's do some takeaways here. If you got to sweeten stuff, if you still have a sweet tooth, be very careful, okay? You're better off having some fruit and eating it, okay? Limited and, but look, I want you to win. I'm on your side. I am a realist, not a purist, but a realist. I want people to win. I want people to get the big picture. First, I want kids to be able to understand, okay? So that they can make choices. I want parents to understand so that they can make choices for their kids and teach them good nutrition. I'm not a purist, okay? I'm not. I'm a realist. You know? So, for me, I look, if you're going to, look, if you haven't, you still got a sweet tooth, then, you know, have some fruit, but limit it. Never drink fructose. Don't drink it. Because you weren't meant to drink it. God gave you fruit to eat, not to drink. Okay? Don't drink juice. Got it? No. Someone was asking me yesterday. Okay? So I got to answer this. Doc, what if I want a little bit of sugar? What is the best sugar? Okay? Well, we know, look, I guess if you can get unpasteurized, local honey, have a little bit of that. Okay? I'd rather you put a little touch of that in your coffee if you need to sweeten it up than use anything artificial. Okay? Unpasteurized, wild honey. It's in the Bible. You know? And again, we live in a different world, so limited, not much. But it's certainly a better sugar. You know, I guess if you got maple syrup, I mean, not Aunt Jemima. Oh, did they change the name of that? Anyway. You know, I don't mean artificial stuff, but the real maple syrup. Well, you can have a little teensy-weensy bit of it. Just to sweeten up your life, honey. Okay? So again, I'm a realist. I'm a realist. Higher fructose levels are higher in the brain with early Alzheimer's. Fructose different than sucrose or glucose. It's used for storage. It creates more hunger and thirst than any other sugar, fructose. High fructose corn syrup. It elevates. Oh, by the way, I didn't even tell you this. Fructose, especially high fructose corn syrup, elevates your levels of uric acid. Okay? And that creates inflammation. Uric acid it goes hand in hand with insulin resistance. You know, people think of uric acid and they think of gout. Yeah, that's true. But a lot of people have high levels of uric acid and they don't get gout. But uric acid, when it's high, is not good for your brain. And fructose and uric acid go together. That's why whenever I had patients with gout, I'd say, you get off that, stop drinking, especially any kind of fruit. Okay. Guys, okay, I'm back down. I'm breathing again normally. And guys, have I told you lately? No, I know I told you that I love you, but did I tell you how much I appreciate you? We appreciate our audience. You have no idea. Okay? Tony Jr. and I were talking about it the other day. I said, we have the most, what happened that we get the best audience in the world? You guys. Smartest. What did I say yesterday? Smart, fun. What was the third one? Smart, fun, loyal. That's us. That's you. You make me. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, guys? You can share this. It's good information. Share it. And you can get your friends and family. You can bring a horse to water. You can't necessarily make them drink it. But you can sure put a little bit of salt in the oats for that horse of yours to listen to the Doctors In podcast. And they can download that on their smart device. And millions have. Millions have. Thank you. We appreciate it. Talk to you soon.